Okay guys, it's Ross again, and guess what? I've got a Warcry box! It's actually John's from House of Chaos, and he very kindly, I think it's very kindly, asked me, I think it's the word ask, to paint the scenery from the Warcry box. So here's a bit of an intro, and a how-to. So most of you have probably seen the Warcry box by now, but I thought I would show off this lovely artwork, and it is fantastic. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard me say before in the past, on our chat on Discord every other Sunday night, I wasn't going to get into Warcry. I'm not even going to have a look at it. I can't get into a game set really, because the game sets I get into, I go all out. I collect pretty much all the armies if I can, get my grubby little mitts on, and I've got way too much to paint, like we all have. But I had a demo of it and I loved it. So I've accidentally picked up a couple of gangs myself, or warbounds, whatever you want to call it. And we'll be doing a short series of videos on that. And then probably doing a how-to video and see where it goes from there. But yeah, this is the lovely artwork of the box. Look at that. See if I can zoom in a little bit. Yeah, it's pretty damn tasty, huh? Do love the artwork on GW stuff. Now I was going to flip it over and show you the back, but it's just going to rattle, so I will pause it first. Good job I did. Crash, bang, rattle, rattle, rattle. Right, so John has already taken the miniatures out and assembled them himself, and he's assembled the scenery. So inside the box right now is all the scenery assembled, but not painted, so that's my job. But I thought I'd show off the box on the back as well. So what do you think? The untamed beasts and the iron golems look pretty wicked, and then you can see what they suggest the scenery will look like. Well, in my mind, I'm going to push the green tint on the stonework a little bit harder, just so it's a bit more eye-catching. But I'll see what happens. See where it takes me. Alright, I will now open the box. So inside the box, like I said, John's assembled all the pieces. There is loads and loads of pieces. From busted statues that are long since forgotten, to wall segments. Can you see the detail on that? So a lot of it's like lots of portcullises and things like that. Planks of wood on top. And the only thing that really does concern me is this piece. As awesome as it looks, these guys. So they look like they're going to snap. Very tiny little chains. So any suggestions how I can strengthen them would be amazing. So half tempted to put a piece of metal in there or something, strengthen it out. But saying that, look at the detail and skeletons in there. Pretty damn cool. So all in all, there are loads and loads of pieces, probably double the amount that I'm showing you now because I can't get them all on one page. So multiple wall segments like that, stairs and ladders and things like that can go onto the side of most of the structures. What does concern me is sneezing near this table and headbutting it. Look at the spiky bits on that. That's just going to hurt. Now I know Ian Cox, one of the friends of the show, friends of House of Chaos, he has actually had one of these stuck in his hand before, as he's reaching across trying to pick up a miniature. So I've been told. Well done, Ian. Yeah, I mean, it's great detail in this stuff. I was thinking about masking off most of the structure, painting the slats first, once dry, taking off the masking tape, and then painting the main part of the building. So I think I'm going to go a bit greener than's on the artwork on the back of the box, mainly because I just want a bit more eye-popping. That kind of green, I was thinking maybe, but it might be a bit too garish. Maybe a bit darker, and then dry brush it and bring it back to that kind of colour. But then if I did use that kind of colour, the oxidization on the bell and things like that probably wouldn't show up so much. So I'll pick a stone wall colour. I didn't want to go grey. I think grey is a bit too plain, a bit too boring. So I'll make a start with the airbrush, picking a primer. Priming all the pieces and then making a start with the basic colours. Come back in a bit. Okay, so I've blasted everything with a can of grey primer, and once that was dry I've just gone over the higher edges at a 45-degree angle just to pick it up a little bit. Now I could exaggerate this and put a wash on it to hit all the darker recesses, but I'll see how I get on first. And then anything wood related, it looks a bit shiny for a minute, but I blasted it with airbrush enamel just for pure speed. And I'll tidy up these edges with a brush in a minute before experimenting with a few washes to see what I like with the terrain. Now on the box art, it's quite greeny, like an oxidized colour, like this. I think I might go a bit more extreme with the same kind of colour, just to make it a bit more eye-catching. So yeah, all the wood stuff has come out a bit shiny. I'm hoping with a nice dry brush I'll calm that down a little bit. But I've just blasted over everything in the box really quickly, and yeah, I'll start dry brushing the wood and see what I've got. Come back in a bit. Okay, so first stage for my wood I'm going to try is a little bit of GW Graveyard Earth. Get the old makeup brush, a nice dry brush from it. And so the first dry brush is going to be quite a heavy dry brush. And the next one is going to be a lighter colour. I mean, wood is rarely as brown as you think, so go as light as you want. Throw a few weird and wonderful colours in there. So maybe some tan colours, maybe some greens, weird and wonderful colours like that. Because if you look at wood in nature, there's like silver birch. Fun enough, it's quite silvery. So yeah, you pick some random colours that you don't think it will probably come up in nature, but they often do. I mean, you can even hit some purples in the wood, because purple and brown work quite well together. So I'm going to hit this one quite hard, and then I'm going to come in there with a lighter colour. Back in a bit. Okay, so after you dry brush the wood, so I dry brushed it a heavy dry brush first. Then I went for a bit of bleach bone with a large makeup brush just to catch the edge highlights. So that's pretty effective, less shiny now. But remember, when I finish the piece, I'm going to spray it with matte varnish in a way to get rid of any sheen, also to protect it, because it's going to be used for club scenery, and unfortunately it does get bashed around a little bit, taking it out of a box every week. So as you can tell, I've started painting the walls. Now, I didn't want the walls to be too uniform. I didn't want to be too marbled, but I did change the colour in a few places, just slightly, just to alter the mix. So I used a bit of skull white with a bit of the oxide from GW, which I said I was going to. Now that is normally a wash, sitting all the recesses, but I wanted that kind of colour to be part of the airbrush, just purely for speed. So I put a bit of that in, and to calm it down a little bit, I put a bit of a darker verdigris in, which was Vallejo airbrush paint as well, which I will bust out here just to show you. So a Model Air Vallejo paint, just to calm it down a little bit. I don't want it too fluorescent, but also to stop it from getting too bright. I will throw a watered down Agrax over everything because I want it dirty. So yeah, this is the kind of colour I've got at the moment. Like I said, I'm doing it all with an airbrush purely for speed because, as you can tell, there's a lot of scenery. So I'm trying to get it done in under a week anyway. So I've mixed up the colour, blasted it all with an airbrush. And next thing is the Agrax. So I have started on a test piece, which is one of the smallest pieces. This here, so I will show you if it can focus. So that's the kind of thing I'm going to go with. Once it's dry, I'm going to dry brush with a little bit of Celestria Grey, if I can talk. Celestria Grey. So just on the edge highlights with a dry brush, and that's the plan. That's basically it, minus any of the brassing, because there's a lot of brassing in Warcry, so a lot of the gates are going to be brassed. Anything with any hooks, or maybe the bell and the bell tower, I think that should be brassed up a little bit. And any of the details, so silver shackles, things like that will be picked out. Obviously anything skeleton orientated will be picked out. And there's skulls in pretty much any of the barricadey bits as well. So I'm not done yet. I've done the majority of it, and the washes will speed things up. Now I'll pick out all the details. So I'll come back after it's all been agraxed, and I'll show you how I will dry brush. Alright, bear with. I will be back. Okay, once the Agrax wash is dry, you'll have something like this. So a little bit dirtier, getting all the recesses, giving some shading. That's the kind of thing I want. And then we hit it with a nice makeup brush. You know how much I love these. You know, I like to look pretty. Which is the best thing for a dry brush. I'm going to hit it with the stuff that I said. Celestria Grey. So, not as grey as you think. There's a bit of a tinge to this. So I will get a little bit on my brush. And I'll work it on the palette here. So being rough as I can. So this makeup brush is semi-heavy dry brush. So I'm going to attempt to go from the top down, side to side on the pillows. So it's semi-heavy, as I'm going to do a light dry brush later on, which is probably going to be a white, I would say. This is pretty heavy. Normally you go quite light with a dry brush, so hopefully you can see all the raised areas that I'm picking up here. So the difference between this bit here and that bit there, you can see the difference. So you get the hint of the green behind the bits that you haven't dry brushed to give the kind of like incorporeal kind of look. That's what I'm going with. So a little bit ghostly kind of looking, a little bit magical, not too bright and green and garish like this. But yeah, so the left hand side is what I want. Here a bit harder again. And like I always say, you can always go over it again a bit heavier. You can't take it away so much. So, how's that for a semi-heavy dry brush? So the left hand side is what I've done so far. Haven't touched the right. So I'll come back to you once I've done all of it, which is a lot in the box. it's a lovely box, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of scenery in this box, in the Warcry core box. So yeah, definitely pick yourself up a copy. Now I will hit all of these with the heavy dry brush, and I'll come back and I'll show you how to do the light dry brush. Bear with me, guys, there's a lot to deal with. Okay, so once you've dry brushed quite heavily over every single piece, should be looking kind of like this. Right. Then we hit it with some GW Ceramite White. Right. So this is the light touch. This is the light dry brush. So you should get just the edges you think you're going to get most of the light. So probably not in the actual recess in the dark places here, but just on top of the shoulders of the statues here, and the edges along here show up quite nicely. So a really nice bright white, whatever white you decide to use, have to use GW white, and just make the highest edges pop a little bit. Just like that. Okay. And then rinse and repeat with 1,000 more pieces of terrain, and then I'll show you the results. So I've dry brushed all the main pieces of scenery, and then I dry brushed it again with the whites to pick up all the extra little bits of detail like I was showing previous. So just along the ledges there and the top of the statues there. Bosh. So that's what it's looking like at the moment. And these big pieces, loads of them in this kit. I love this kit, I really do. The more I'm painting, the more I'm really liking the detail. So next thing is, now I've done the main bits of bricks and things like that, I'm going to pick out all the little bits of skull. So the skulls on this. It's going to do all the whites first, so all the scully bits, which there's quite a lot of on the barricades, just a little skull hidden here and there. Skeleton there. Once that's dry, then I'm going to hit the skulls with a sepia wash. And then I'm going to start on probably the brass works, so like the symbols of chaos there, maybe the brass on the bell of the bell tower, and the cages of the skeletons. Whereas the main pieces of scenery, the big chunks like this, the brass is going to be for the portcullises. Right, so then I will come back once that's done and show you what I've done next. So I've done all the bronzy work like on the portcullises, picking out a bit of detail. So yeah, it's pretty good, and painting the occasional different plank of wood. When that was done with all the main structures, and then washed all the skulls like I said I was going to do, picked out the occasional plank of wood that was a bit different colour, painted the ropes and things like that, just picking out the details just to make things look a bit more natural. It's still a bit shiny, but like I said, I'm going to hit it with some matte varnish. And the little fountains, or whatever you want to call them, I've painted the details inside and added a bit of blood in there because I thought chaosified, why not? To random ruined sections, just rubbly bits, painting a bit of detail on. And that's it basically. You just keep picking out the things, like the skulls that you like, weathering stuff up a bit, making it look a bit beaten. Not too clean, because you know that irritates me. Really clean rubble. You know, the idea is a building's falling down and yet somehow it's still miraculously still clean. So yeah, just picking out the occasional slightly different colour there. And I'm going to hit it all with a matte varnish. And that's pretty much it. You can keep on going whatever you want. You know, you can pick up a bit more detail on the planks here. You can pick up more detail on the skeletons. But I try to do a couple hours a night, every night for a week, to rip through this terrain. And I've done most of it. Tabletop standard, obviously. You can take as long as you want painting it up, but I'm quite happy with it, especially for club terrain. And one more thing to do to wrap it all up is to paint that bell and the cages for the skeletons. But other than that, everything's all done. Really quite enjoy this. Lots and lots of detail. Sure look great on the tabletop. Thank you very much for watching, guys. So, this is what the scenery is looking like after the airbrush of matte varnish. Quite pleased with that. Nice and matte now, it's got rid of anything shiny related. Little bridges and walkways are looking a lot better. Quite happy with that. So after you're done finishing all the details, so like the chains and things like that, put a wash on them to make them look a bit grubby. And on the other set of barricades, the other set of spikes, I say spikes because I've accidentally put my hand on top of them a few times. I've just done a little coordinate symbol there. A nice bright gold and then washed it down with an agrax. I did think about going with bronze. Bronze was probably a bit too dark with all that brown going on there. So, like I said previously, after I've done all the detail, I was going to use matte varnish on the whole thing. Which I have, and it's calmed it down a bit. Quite like this bell tower. It's pretty cool. So that's the basic look of the scenery. And you've got the other type that has the portcullises as well. So I've bundled it all back in the box because it only just fits in the box as well when it's fully assembled, like Tetris, but it does fit in the box. So well done to the box designers. By fit in the box I don't mean stand on it to get the lid closed. That's it. So yeah, loads and loads of pieces of scenery in this box. Lots to rattle through. I try to get it to a tabletop standard, get it out as fast as possible for you guys. I mean, you could spend ages doing loads and loads of detail. At the end of the day, this is for our club terrain. I think that's probably the right amount of detail I want. I could spend a bit longer. Thank God for airbrushing and dry brushing and washes. So you don't have to be a genius to paint this stuff. But you know, just spend a little bit of time on it. There's the rubbly sections. Just picking out a bit of detail here and there, like the bones. That's alright. And no, the wood looks really nice. There's lots of detail on the wood. Underneath. Looks pretty nice. Get rid of all the sheeny stuff with the matte varnish. picking out all the skulls, things like that. Just a bit of detail here and there. Make the bland bits stand out a bit better. And like I said before, there's the font with a bit of blood in the bottom. I'll put some pictures up online on our community page. And thank you very much for watching, everyone. Catch you next time.